Greetings and salutations, everyone! My name is Fire Mage, and welcome back to Rimworld Ascension Take 2, Episode 80. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to like and subscribe, and as always, mod list is down in the description. And with that, let's get on to the episode! Alright, well, picking up after the incredibly close call that was last episode, what are my plans for today? Well, today we are going to utilize all of those supplies we just gathered after our little raiding extravaganza to finish up the new dining hall. On top of that, though, we also need to figure out what to do with all these weapons, which, admittedly, probably just gonna build another weapons cabinet. It's simple enough solution if we need it. And also, today we are going to possibly start working with the Outpost system, as I've been looking into it a little bit, and I think it could be a good resource investment. Maybe. Still not entirely sure on that part, but it is a good idea to keep in the back of our minds. Seeing as we have so many colonists now, if we send a few of them out to set up some outposts, that should make Randy Random more willing to give me more colonists. I think. I think that's how that works anyway. Not entirely sure. Speaking of the armory, though, I think there is one more thing we need to do over here. That being, we need to build ourselves, for the first time ever, a War Casket weapon. Specifically, a War Casket slug thrower. As we found out in the last two episodes, these things, while somewhat lacking in range, are insanely powerful. Able to 1 to 2 shot most turrets and 1 shot most enemy colonists. I definitely think that is going to be a worthwhile investment for the War Caskets, since we have 2 of them. Get 2 giant shotgun-wielding, essentially mech suits, really. Plus, on the bonus, these autocannons they're using currently cannot be fired while moving, whereas the giant scary shotguns of death can be fired while moving, giving them the advantage in mobility, which is always nice. You know what? I think we're also actually going to build another steel extractor, since we now have a deep drill down here, which can provide us the stone chunks we need for the concrete production. And on top of that, we just in general need more steel. Now, the only downside to doing this is that this room is now completely and totally cramped and needs to be expanded ever so slightly. Which, admittedly, shouldn't be too terribly difficult to do, but still, it is a minor inconvenience. But with this, we should be able to produce about 10 steel, we should be able to produce about 20 steel every 2 hours. Not a lot, but it is double our current natural steel production, so I will take it. Ah, and we have a bulk goods trader coming to us from the Eastern Republic. Very nice. Just what we need in terms of a trader. Beller Rose, please go equip the trading suit. And let's see if we can't make some deals. I do like making deals, especially if those deals give me steel. Alright, let's see just what this trader has to offer. First of all, they are willing to buy this chocolate that for some reason is worth substantially less money. Might as well sell it. Not sure why it's worth so much less, but I will not argue with selling it. Let's buy their cloth so that we can continue our work. And I don't think they have anything else of interest. Or at least nothing else that is immediately eye-catching, other than the fact that they will give us more money. About the only thing they have that I want. But at the very least, that resets our colonist mood buff for having recently traded. Should help keep our people just a little happier. Alright, well, after some careful consideration, I have decided that it is time for us to begin setting up some outposts of our own. Starting off, we will be setting up our first outpost, and I'm thinking we'll set it up right over here. We will be sending Sam and Sam alone, which might seem a tad strange, but I have my reasoning for it, which you will see in just a moment. So, now that Sam's caravan has departed the base, I will show you exactly what it is I want to do. See, we have all of these options to make many different types of outposts. But the one I'm interested in with Sam is the hunting outpost, which can be run by one person and makes a certain amount of meat based off of their shooting skill. And it just so happens that Sam has a very high shooting skill. So I am not at all concerned about Sam. They should do fine. They also have good animals and cooking, so they should be able to hold their own. On top of that, if I am correct, I shouldn't need to worry about Sam's health, which means we no longer have to worry about our dimension-ridden sniper. Hopefully, if it works. It might not. But if it does, then that will be the first of a couple of outposts that I have in mind. And speaking of outposts, Sam has now arrived at her destination. Thus, let us create our very first outpost for hunting. And there it is. Alright, and we can set it to hunt any 14 of these. Let's go with 14 Mega Sloths. Maybe not. Let's see. Can I pick one? There we go. Horses will produce plain leather and will deliver it to us. So every quarter of a year, we will get 456 plain leather and 1,266 horse meat from this one place with one person. Insane. And we can even auto-send caravans just like so, which is pretty neat. Another thing that's nice, though, is apparently another bulk goods trader, which is passing by in orbit. Please go ahead and call them up, and let's get some more resources. Let's see what this bulk goods trader has for us. First of all, they do have more Phoenix owl cats. No females, though, so I can't exactly get a breeding pair, which is a shame. But, as usual, they do have a couple of components, some more cloth, medicine, and, of course, the ever-elusive steel. And if we purchase all of that, that'll run us about 2,577 silver. Pretty expensive. But we can also sell some stuff, such as all these organs. We have a lot of them. On top of that, we can sell off some of these excess clothes that we just happen to have lying around. And apparently they are willing to sell us a cryosleep suspender. Very interesting. Apparently they're willing to sell us 2 of those. I don't think we need those, but it's cool that we have the option. No, what I am interested in is selling them some more leather, because we have a lot of it. You never go wrong with selling more leather, always nice to turn a profit. And so, by doing all of that, we will make 920 silver. Not a lot, but it is enough to count it as a profit. Well, with that first outpost set up over here, let's go ahead and get to work on our second outpost, which we will actually be putting down here in the mountains. Not because it actually does anything, but because I just think that makes the most sense. And this one will be a mining outpost with Nomics, Vera, and Mooks. Now, why am I sending these guys, even though they are not our best miner, who is Wiggy? Well, simple. Because Wiggy is our best miner, I want to keep him. They're more valuable to me at my colony, so that is where they shall stay. However, these three people here, while they are certainly useful, are not as useful compared to the rest of the colony. They are certainly skilled, but not in areas I need, so we shall send them off to establish our own little mining colony. And they should have enough overall skill to do so, just not as good as if we were to send Wiggy along with. And it would seem that some pirates are demanding money again. This time, almost 100,000. Wow, okay. And it's because of our proximity to your steel mining worksite. Okay, well, let's postpone that for a second. And as much as I want you guys to go and do that, I'm gonna need you to stick around for a minute. And same with everyone else, really. In fact, let's just save myself the hassle, draft everyone and get them to come inside so that I can close the doors. Now, this is probably going to be a quite sizable raid if I am correct. So we want to make sure that everyone is nice and safe. Get all my robots to go and store themselves in here. Not the most ideal place, but it will make sure that they are all indoors. And that is the last of our external doors closed. Alright, so let's get to work setting up our people. Alright, that's just about everyone on the line. Only a couple of people who still need to reload their guns and get into position. Let's go ahead, reject that demand, and see just what it is we're dealing with. A whole bunch of family members, apparently. And 90 humanoids with a lot of machine guns. Unfortunately, they decided to spawn in the river, arguably one of the worst spots they could have spawned, as that will give me plenty of time to move into position to bombard. Let's see, it looks like we only got about 20 splitting off there, with the majority splitting off down here, which is the one that will be getting the most bombardment. Let's fire another salvo here. And here. See if that'll hit them. It looks like they actually managed to avoid the first couple of salvos. Ah, good. Looks like that secondary bombardment actually did hit them a little bit. Not as much as I would like, personally, but it'll do. Let's aim a little bit further forward, since this group has split into two. We'll need to space these out a little bit more. Well, not the most effective rocket bombardments we've ever done. But at least they're doing something. Honestly, we might actually get a bit of a fight for once, since it seems like they're actually going to make it to our defenses. That is something I am most pleased to see. Alright, looks like we're going to get about one more bombardment on them. before they are able to actually hit our trenches. Let's try to make it count. Well, I would certainly say that was quite effective. Not as much as it could have been, admittedly, but still. Effective enough. Let's just make sure that all of our vehicles are indeed set to engage. And everyone has a gunner who can shoot. There we go, and that should be just about everything. We are as prepared for this fight as one can be. And here they come. They are now approaching the line and getting lit up. That's one down. Oh, and it looks like the second army group has approached. Well, so far no one's even made it over the barbed wire. Oh, that guy did, and he stepped on the landmine. And now he's dead. Alright, they are coming over in force now. Another landmine activated. Apparently my tanks are not engaging. Strange. You shoot there. You... I don't like Tammy specifically. Oh, another landmine activated, and our flamethrowers are now engaging. And now my guns are engaging properly, and they're already retreating. Wow. Now, I will give them some credit. They managed to get a grand total of 15 people over the barbed wire. That's about it, though. That's about the only thing I can really give them credit for, because they lost a lot of people. And now we get to do some capturing. Maybe. Let's go ahead. First thing we gotta do is, of course, bring our vehicles on back. Get them all parked back in their proper spots, since that was quite successful. Make sure that we reload all the guns too, though. And now that they're doing that, let's go ahead and start taking a little look-see around at some of these downed people. Let's see, you die in 6 hours, and you're not unwaveringly loyal. Congratulations, you are being captured. That's a hussar. Finally! Oh, you're gonna die really fast. Where is good doctor? The best. Best, you're decently fast. Go try to tend. Because if I can capture a hussar, I absolutely will. Another baseliner who is dying but not dead. We'll go ahead and capture. Alright, Robinson, are you going to be able to get saved? Maybe. This is why we carry medicine with us. Come on. The best. Can you save this guy? I really want a hussar. Nope, he's gonna die. Shame. Well, that's what hussars do. That is quite literally their job. So, I can't exactly fault him for being good at it. How many landmines did we lose? We lost 8 landmines, leaving us with 7. Not a bad loss ratio. And now, once again, our prison is full of people. Very nice. And while we were hauling our 2 new prisoners into our prison, our second war casket slug thrower has been built. Technically, it's the first one we've ever actually built. So, one could argue it's the first. And that means, once we get that uninstalled, Reaper... How do we equip this, actually? I'm not entirely sure. Do we deconstruct it now or something? I don't think they can just like... Oh, nope, they can. Okay. Well, now I'm glad I double-checked. And that will make both my war caskets into close-range killing machines. Not that they needed to be any more effective, but I will not argue with that. And we now have 42 more human corpses. Very good, because we are almost out of chem fuel over here. Not entirely out of chem fuel, as we still have 16,000 in storage. But I did, just for reference, set the Scythemen to carry the maximum amount of fuel they can, which is 2.4 thousand. That way, they are always full of fuel to fire their rockets, but more importantly, when we go out on another caravan to attack or trade or whatever, we will have tons of fuel in reserve. And there they are. Nomix and his mining crew have arrived at the location, and that means it is time for us to create a mining outpost. Apparently named the Black Cave. Very interesting. Ah. Well, that's unfortunate. Apparently, they are too unskilled to actually produce anything of value. But if we could get their skills to 15, we could be getting 384 steel every quadrum. Interesting. Or, I believe it's every quadrant. Are these on the same timer? No, they're not. Interesting. Well, I suppose we could get some marble blocks. Why marble blocks? Well, I guess because we could use them to beautify our rooms a little bit. Maybe use them to make some art sculptures. Really, it's just because there's nothing else for them to produce right now. We'll probably end up sending one of our prisoners once they get recruited over there. Although I'm still not entirely sure what their skills are. Let's take a little look. Let's see. Tammy here. Pretty decent spread of skills. Probably going to turn them into a farmer, though, with that super passion for plants, even though they're not particularly skilled at it. And what about Iskra? Iskra is good at mining and animals and shooting. Interesting. So that means that Iskra could either go to the mining site or the hunting site. We'll probably send Iskra over to the mining site, but if we ever start running low on food, we can shift him over to the hunting site, since we know that we can do that now. It's good to have that as an option. You know, I just realized something. Since we have gone ahead and sent out all those people, we now have a bunch of unowned beds in all of our little living areas. Very interesting, and I think we might actually have enough to move out the last of our people. And it seems that we do. And with that, since we now no longer are living in these old houses over here, first of all, that means we can go ahead and deconstruct all of this stuff over here, which I am quite happy for, personally, as this has been a little bit of an eyesore for a while now. Let's also make sure that we don't accidentally deconstruct anything actually important, like the power lines or the chem fuel lines. But that does mean that we can now check off the build upgrade houses, because now no one is living in the old ones and everyone is living in the new area. Now, we probably will build one more of these residential blocks, just because we have a bunch of people who will be joining us, even if it is only for a short time. But I would rather they have some houses, so they don't just have to live down here or in one of these unfinished, unupgraded guest houses. But But it is nice that those are going to be removed as soon as my people are done building all of this. Oh, well, that's interesting. It looks like we have a wanderer who wishes to join us. Huh. Well, I see no reason to reject. Welcome to the colony, Skunk. What are you good at? You are really good at cooking and plants, but you are a xenophobe. That is not good. But we are going to make an exception for that because you are good at cooking and you are good with plants, which are two things we desperately need more of. So welcome to the colony, Skunk. Please get to work as soon as you can. What are your combat skills like? 0 and 1. Not ideal. But we will make it work, I guess. Not that we really have much of a choice. And there we go. The dining hall isn't quite yet finished. As you can see, there are still a few things that need finishing, mostly the floor and the chairs. But I hereby deem it good enough for us to start transferring over the equipment that we need. Starting off with the stove and, of course, the grills, as those are two of the most important pieces of our equipment. Then, of course, the butchering table, which we'll put right there. And we won't really worry about the prep table, but we will worry about the tool cabinets, as these are quite expensive. We'll put one here and, I don't know, put the other one here or something. Still haven't decided. But the most important thing that is now done is, of course, all of the barrels. So let's start off setting up the barrels to hold some vegetarian product with these ones. And then meat products in these ones here. And with that, we will now be able to store all of our goodies. All right, well, I think I'm gonna leave this episode off here. We have made a lot of progress. The dining hall is almost finished. The vehicles are fully repaired. Flamethrowers are being built. Factories upgraded. And of course, the big one, we now have 2 outposts sending resources back. One for hunting, one for mining, and the mining one is completely useless. But once we get those prisoners converted and recruited, it should be slightly less useless. Probably. So hopefully next episode we will be able to finish up the dining hall. All we need is a metric ton of plain leather and a little bit more cloth, and that'll be done. On top of that, we will also be finishing up the last of the houses, to be torn down of course, and maybe building a few more just as a reserve. But with all that said and done though, I will see you all in the next episode.